So, Haulie, the Cork footballers are kicking off their Summer Cup campaign on Saturday, a trip up to Navan to take on Louth. But first of all, I just want to get your take on the opening weekend of action in the Summer Cup, especially Group 1. Mayo took Kerry's scalp. How do you think that'll affect Group 1 in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I suppose, Kerry didn't seem to have the required desire. And like Mayo, like they were the only team all along that, could go man-to-man with Dublin and came very close to beat him. And Kerry are another team that play that kind of football as well, where they allowed an opposition team to go man-to-man. But Mayo's fitness levels looked savage. They were very, very hungry. I think Kevin McStay said after they lost to Roscommon, that he gave them 2 weeks off. And look, that was a luxury to have, I suppose, because they had won Division 1 of the league. He knew they were in a very good place. They had to go out the week after and play Roscommon. So, it wasn't as if they had a huge amount to work on. They were kind of caught in the hot by Roscommon a week after they played the league final. So, that was kind of tough on them. But they seemed to open Kerry very easily. They overran them at midfield. Kerry didn't track their runners. They created numerous goal chances. Jason Foley looked in trouble with Aidan O'Shea at fullback all day long. And they got their matchups right. Paddy Clifford was kept scoreless. Shani Shea was kept scoreless. David Clifford was excellent again, but only for him it could have been a far wider gap. And look, I suppose there's a lot of learnings there for Cork. If Cork can produce a performance against Louth and try and take some of those things that worked for Mayo against Kerry, you could have a positive performance in Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well the week after.
So that's Cork and Kerry, that's Páirc Uí Chaoimh this Saturday week. But Cork kick it off, like I said earlier, against Louth this weekend. And we touched it there too, Haulie. Mayo had a big break between being knocked out of Connacht in their opening game in Clarny last weekend. Cork have also had 6 weeks since we lost to Clare in that shock Munster quarter-final to this game against Louth. So how do you think the Cork management will have got the best out of those 6 weeks?
Well, look, I suppose we all came out of it as saying that they had an awful lot of work to do and an awful lot of improving to do. So I suppose the 6-week gap, gave them that chance. They probably played a number of challenge games, and they probably looked at their game plan you'd be expecting, and they'd have looked at ways of trying to improve that and trying to develop their game. And look, sure, we're all in the dark a bit again with regard to what way they're going to set up and what way it's going to go, but you'd be hoping that we'd see drastic improvement. And also on top of that, the players, in the past, if you had a defeat like that, you'd be out the weekend after in a qualifier and you'd be back on the horse. And the kind of mental block about getting beaten by Clare and Ennis would be gone. But they've had 6 long weeks now of kind of the Cork football public and people in general saying the Cork are written off. So that hurt and that desire, that has to come to the fore as well. And I've no doubt it will. They have to be raring to get back on the horse and have a real cut-off load and, deliver a decent performance and come out the right side of it.
What was the most disappointing aspect of Cork's performance against Clare?
Well, I suppose Cork were, they were thereabouts as kind of poor as it all turned out to be. We could have easily got out of there with a 1 point or a 2 point win if things had gone our way. But look, it was just very easy to read, and I thought they did an awful lot of the same things they did all through the league, and it kind of played into Colm Collins's hands because he was well prepared for Cork's kick-out strategy and he had his matchups right, and they played with that hometown fire supported by their home crowd. And look, also on top of that, Brian Hurley was missing, and Brian Hurley is still an integral part of the Cork forward line, and he's supposed to be back fit and playing now for the next day, so hopefully that'll be a bonus.
How much of a boost is that Brian is back? He's not only is he Cork captain, but he was Cork's informed forward for a large chunk of the early part of the year as well. So, like you said, Haulie, he's an integral part of what Cork want to do.
Yeah, and he's a goal getter. If he's left 1-on-1, no matter who the defender is, you could name out some of the best fellas in the country that are able to mark 1-on-1. But if he gets 1-on-1 anywhere from the D in, he's going to take you on. He's going to look to stick it in the back of the net, And he probably would have got 1 or 2 of those chances against Clare that would have put a bit of daylight and a bit of breathing space between the teams that might have allowed the rest of the players to express themselves a small bit more, and that anxiety might have gone, if you know what I mean. So look, he is very important, and he does take minding. The opposition know about him. He's been on the go now for the ones of 10 years with the Cork squad, And like, if Brian Hurley is inside, they'll be sitting someone in front to close up that gap. Now, look, obviously it depends again what way Louth are going to line up. Will they go the way they went last year in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, or they went man to man for long stages against Dublin? So it's up to what way Mickey Hart is going to line out his team and set them up as well.
This will be Cork and Louth's third meeting in less than 12 months. First was back in the qualifiers in Páirc Uí Chaoimh last year. Cork came out in the, I suppose you call it a war of attrition in one way. Then in the league this year, up in RD, Louth came out on top. It was their first win against Cork, I think, in 66 years. So they got that monkey off their back. So what's going to happen in this third meeting in 12 months? And where will this game be decided on Saturday?
Yeah, like, I suppose in fairness to Louth, they finished third in Division 2 and they made the Leinster final. So, like, it's a pretty successful season for them already. No one would have expected them to beat the Dubs, and like to have the battle that Mickey Hart and the confidence that Mickey Hart had to send his squad of players out man to man on Dublin. There's not, you might say Mayo, you might say Kerry that would be capable of doing that, or maybe Galway now. But like, that was very courageous, and obviously he has fierce belief in his team. But like, if again it goes back to, like, if Louth go 15 up, 15 back, it's going to be a similar kind of a story to last year. It'll be a game of patience, and when those gaps appear, you're going to have to be able to take those gaps. But it'll depend as well whether the team changes. You know what I mean? Like, are they sticking with the same primary 15, let's say, to 20 players, or will we see some new faces? It's hard to call, because things have been very quiet since the Ennis game, because I'd say a lot of people were hurting and there's not a whole pile being said, and you'd be hoping that there was a lot of hard work being done behind closed doors to, let's say, get back on the horse and produce the kind of level of intensity and speed that's needed to beat Louth.
Besides Brian Hurley coming back in for this game, any changes you'd like to see? Any fellas on the periphery that you think deserve a chance?
Well, there is talk of Rory Maguire not being fit. That he's carrying some kind of a hamstring injury. Whether he'll be ready in time for Saturday or not is a different story. But that would mean probably, you could probably see Sean Meehan going to 6, or maybe you'll see Tom Clancy Clan coming in at 6. Because whoever comes in there is going to have a huge job on Sam Mulroy, who's their top player, and he got 10 points against Dublin. And if he can get 10 points against Dublin with the quality of defenders that they have, he's going to be one guy that has to be stopped. If he gets 10 points against Cork, more than likely we're going to come out the wrong side of it, because it will be it won't be as high scoring a game as the Leinster final was, you'd expect anyway.
This is a huge game for both Cork and Louth. With the greatest respect to both counties, they both have to play Mayo and Kerry in the weeks after. And with the way this championship is set up, Haulie, it's 3 teams out of the group of 4 will go through. So if you get one win under your belt, that's almost guaranteeing you progression. So both Cork and Louth, they'll be targeting this game, because they know if they can get a win on Saturday, it sets them up for the games to come.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is probably the biggest game Cork have had in years in the championship, to be honest. If you come out the wrong side of it again, you could be set back for quite a while. It'll be a big blow to confidence in general and to this group of players. But as you said, there's 3 out, 1 win. Like, if Cork beat Louth and deliver 2 good performances against both Mayo and Kerry, you'd be in a good place for a preliminary quarter-final. Then you don't know who you'd get there. But like, the other side of it then is, and look, it's only my own opinion, I suppose, it'd probably be far more exciting if there was only 2 way out of each group. 3 is an awful lot, and you could have a fair stab at picking who the 4 are going to be that are going to be left out. Like, if you had 2, you can imagine, if Cork beat Louth and Kerry come into Cork, then Cork could have a chance of putting out of the championship, basically, and to create great excitement and draw a far bigger crowd to Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Maybe that's something that the GA can even learn from this year going into next year. Like you said there, the fact that the 3 teams out of 4 are going through, like, there's little jeopardy then. Like, it's coming down to, if you win 1 game, you're almost through, and then if you lose your next 2, it won't make much of a difference, because you have that preliminary quarter-final to fall back on. So could be something the GA could tweak after this year, maybe.
Yeah, and I suppose on top of that as well, like, like, you had the kind of one-sided draw in Connacht. The draw wasn't seeded, and Sligo, in fairness to them, they deserved their spot. They are in one of the groups, but if the provincial draws were seeded, it would give, you probably would have the top 16 teams in the country then in the 4x4. But look, I suppose the provincial championship, it does deserve giving the weaker counties a chance at least to make a Leinster final or a Munster final. But then on the other side of that, we saw 3 out of the 4 provincial finals were a waste of time. You know, so you know they'll be looking at that as well, saying that maybe they'll be looking at the Munster Council and all the other councils and asking them to seed their draws for next year to make sure that you have decent provincial finals and that you really do end up with, you know, 4 very good teams in each one of the 4 groups, which then would make it highly competitive for 3 to get out.
Just on the provincials for a second, while you mentioned it, what is the future for them, Haulie? Because Munster, Kerry won by 14, Connacht and Galway won by 14, and then Leinster, just Dublin won by over 20 points. And I know, granted, okay, up in Ulster, it's always tight up there, but can you see a future in the provincials if they keep going the way they are? Because Leinster and Munster become a bit monotonous at the moment.
Well, I suppose, you know, the dream is there of getting to a final and catching a stronger team, isn't it? You know, it's going to be very hard, you know, with the voting system in the provincial councils and all that kind of stuff to go away from non-seeding of the draw. And obviously it can happen by accident, in that you have the stronger teams on opposite sides and you will have competitive provincial finals. But this year, with Clare beating Cork and with Sligo getting through on the other side, and obviously Dublin are really, you know, starting to steam again, and they whitewashed everybody they met in Leinster basically. But look, it's a difficult one, and obviously, you know, having the 2 provincial finalists going through to the 4x4 was trying to give more importance to the provincial championships. But I would say it probably won't work out like this every time. Do you know what I mean? That you were in a situation where you had, like, Cork and Kerry Munster final probably wouldn't have been a 14-point hammering or whatever it was with Clare. If you had a Mayo Galway Connacht final, that's not going to be a hammering either. Do you know what I mean? So it could be a one-off year that is an exception, if you know what I mean. So look, it remains to be seen. It's not for, we can only talk about it. I suppose we don't have any influence. But they could definitely end up with a stronger 16 as the final 4x4s if the draws were different.
It's going to be interesting to see how the next couple of weeks pan out. But starting so on Saturday, what's your prediction? Can Cork go up to Navan and come away with that vital win to set them up for Kerry and Mayo in the weeks ahead?
Yeah, I think they can. I'd be expecting, and it'll be very, very, very disappointing if it doesn't happen. I expect them to play with ferocious intent and ferocious ferocity, because, you know, they're hurting with the last 6 weeks, and it's been a tough time for them, you can be guaranteed, and they're bound to be raring for rod. Now, on the other side of it, you know, Louth are coming off a heavy defeat against Dublin. Will that affect them mentally, or will there be that element of baggage there as well, like Cork would have had, let's say, if the break was less from the Clare game? But it is a huge advantage also, obviously, that the game's in Navan rather than above in Louth. You know, because it's basically a neutral venue, and I know Louth play their home games there, but Cork are comfortable playing in Park Talton as well. They've played there recently, so I think that's an advantage to Cork as well.
Final question, Haulie, and you mentioned it there. Cork are hurting, disappointed after their performance and lost to Clare. How important is it that they bring that intent that you spoke of there, that they use that disappointment and turn it into a positive in their performance on Saturday?
Oh, sure. Look, you know, we've all played and we've all been there, and you know, that terrible feeling of putting in so much work and not producing on the day. You know, that's a killer. You know, all you're waiting to do is get back out and prove that you're better than you should. You know, and this squad of players definitely are far, far better than what they should in Ennis. And I've no doubt that John Cleary and Kevin Walsh and the rest of them would have been driving that on, saying, look, you're written off. You know, this is your time if you want to get back on the horse. But we can't be under any illusions either. Or Louth showed a lot of stuff against Dublin that they're well capable of, you know, bringing a huge performance as well, and turning Cork over, even if Cork do produce, you know. So look, my feeling is Cork, and I hope my feeling is right, because it'll be nice to go into the Kerry game with a game under your belt and a win under your belt, and they having, you know, they go in the need of points, and they look more vulnerable than they were last year. So look, it remains to be seen, but I think Cork will win.
Great stuff, Haulie. Thanks.